All right. Welcome to another trade recap. Today is January 22nd, 2026. So today we did actually take a small L of $190, and luckily it was only across one account. And honestly, if there was a time where I think a trade recap journal is important, it would be today. Um, and I'll show you why. So let's just jump straight into the charts, right? So looking at, I already have all the Asia sessions mapped out, Asia, London, New York, whatever. We have some, technically these, were they made? No, these weren't valid yet, these highs. So all we really had was these previous session lows, these Asia lows as well, okay? Same thing on ES. I actually didn't map out these previous session lows, but we had these hourly lows, Asia session, and that's about it. The rest was just unfilled hourly gaps. So we had one right here, we had one right here. The bias for the day was actually very bearish. Now, here's the reason. And only on ES. I wasn't very bearish on NQ. I wasn't bearish on NQ at all, actually. The reason being is because of this opening gap, right? We have it both on. That's strange. Why is it like that? Huh? Oh, I mapped this out wrong. Okay, cool. That's why it's like that. Um, there you go. That's more like it. Mainly because even though we on both NQ and ES previously we had filled this gap, or at least retraced into it, we hadn't hit equilibrium of this yet. Okay. On NQ, we actually filled equilibrium on the 21st at 13. What's that like? 1 p.m. So PM session. Whereas with ES, we did retrace into this gap, but just barely. And by the time market opened, as you can see right here, let's go down to the 5-minute time frame here. By the time market opened, okay, no, we're good. By the time market opened, we had fully filled in this gap, or we actually hadn't fully. I was looking at the wrong thing. We hadn't filled in equilibrium right over here. Okay, so we come up. Oh yeah, we did. Wow, this is so frustrating. We did fill in equilibrium before market open. I was still looking for shorts though because I was expecting a huge, or at least a decent sized retrace after filling in equilibrium of this opening gap. Now, here is where it gets interesting and kind of tragic at the same time, right? I was having some technical difficulties today in terms of my charts. I was having internet problems. And so I couldn't really see the charts till like, what was it, like 9:40, I believe it was. Yeah, till 9:40. And because of that, I was actually just a few moments late to the party. Or, hmm, sorry, give me a second. Actually, I'm thinking here real quick. not entirely sure. I'm really not. Okay, well, pretty much, let me show you guys the trade. I'll explain as I go. No, I was late to the trade. What time did I see this? There's no way I entered here. I entered like right here. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay. So here's why I went quiet for a little bit, right? Because this is the point where I actually hopped on the charts, or actually not hopped on the charts, but was able to see my charts. And I was looking at NQ first, and I didn't really like NQ. I didn't like the way it was looking at all, because of that new week opening gap. But on ES, I was thinking maybe if I actually hopped on or saw my charts at 9:30, I could have gotten a much better entry. So my entry that I could have gotten was probably, I'll be honest, guys, the entry I would have taken was right here. Yeah, right here. Let's see. Boom. Which would have stopped me out as well. So now I'm trying to think for a little bit here before. Okay, well, long story short, I would have gotten stopped out regardless whether I saw the charts on time or not. This is where I entered, and my bias overall directionality was correct. The only issue is that was actually just my take profit, my exit points. The exit wasn't as, or I didn't have as strong or certain of an exit as I should have. Okay. So what did I enter off of? Again, filling in this new week opening gap. Over here, I see inverse. I see an inversion. Hold on. Sorry. We inverse this gap right here, as well as this one. I'm like, okay, cool. Anything on the 5-minute? Yeah. And we also inverse this 5-minute gap as well. So this was honestly the best entry I could have taken, looking back at it. So the entry was perfectly fine. Actually, I'm going to add a new rule to my strategy. Okay, cool. I'll explain that later after this. So I put in my position. I think I loaded up 3 contracts here. And everything was actually looking very, very, very good. I'm going to remove this new week opening gap just because it's in the way right now. You know, we were holding bearish structure. We were pushing down past this hourly unfilled, right? Or kind of sort of tapped into hourly. And I wanted to see these lows get taken. And the reason why I wanted to see these lows get taken is purely because of risk to reward. I personally just thought that that opening gap would give us a little bit more selling pressure than what it did. But I failed to keep in mind that we were very bullish. Price action has been extremely bullish on NQ recently. And honestly, if we came up all the way over here to fill in this gap, which was from the bottom, 140 points on ES, and what is it like? Let's see here. 500, nearly 600 points on NQ. More than likely, by the time we hit it, we would be in very bullish structure on these indexes. Okay. And even though I was expecting a decent retrace regardless, um, price action has been fairly balanced out, hasn't been too imbalanced, inefficient. We were just so bullish. Um, and the risk to reward, if I was to put my stops or my take profit over here, I wouldn't have been happy with that, right? So what did I do? I personally put my take profit all the way down at this previous session low. It wasn't the previous session's low, but it was a low of the previous session. Actually, I did lie. This is an Asia low. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. The only reason why I'm saying it's good to journal, that this is a trade worthy of a journal, and I'm not even too worried about the YouTube video today. This is more for myself because I am doing a lot of thinking and reflecting. But the reason why I think it's important for me to journal this trade and to make a trade recap on it is because I thought about exiting, closing out my full position at this gap when we were near this gap at least 5 times. I mean, yeah, at least 5 times I was thinking on closing this position. And I would have made a decent profit. It wasn't nothing crazy. It was $200. But it's still profit. Instead, what I ended up doing was, okay, I look at the 15-minute time frame. What do we have on the 15-minute? Well, we have this 15-minute gap right here. Okay. So originally I was thinking, all right, this is what's going to happen. We're going to come into this 15-minute gap. We also have a 5-minute gap right here as well. But I was more concerned, or actually right here, we're going to come into this 15-minute gap. We're going to fill it 50% of the way, and we're going to reject. Okay. And I was, in fact, wrong. We came in, had my stops at break even by this point, right over here. We came in, we filled it, and I actually ended up getting stopped out at break even. Cool. We didn't lose any money. And then as I continued to watch price action, right, we never actually, or at least I don't believe, let's see. I don't think we did, right? 45. Where did I re-enter? No. Okay, that's what it was. I was wondering because I know I got out of pretty much at break even on this trade, right? Because I entered accidentally on NQ first, so I lost like 30 something. I think it was even less than $30. And I actually moved stops to right over here. Yeah, to this high, I think it was. Or, yeah. No, I don't remember. But after I got stopped out, I ended up, no, it was this high right here. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was. I really wish I mapped out this second trade. I get stopped out right here, for like 30 to 40 bucks in profit, just to make up for the losing NQ trade that I accidentally entered in. But what happens right after is we come in, we tap this 15-minute gap, we actually go into the 15-minute, and as soon as we get stopped out, we get this 1-minute inverse, right? And at this point, I'm like, man, dude, fuck. We're definitely gonna continue coming and dropping down. So what do? I re-enter. I think I re-entered somewhere right here. Maybe like right here. No, it was while we were still in this 1-minute gap. Whatever. I entered somewhere in this vicinity for another short position. Same take profit, just a worse entry. And it looked something like this. And I ended up getting stopped out on this position, unfortunately, for $190. In all reality, I should have trusted myself and should have trusted my intuition and just closed out the position. And then the reason why I'm so quiet during this trade recap today is because I'm really trying to figure out why we didn't come down to take out this Asia low. It was closer to like this actually. And why did I subconsciously have a feeling that we weren't gonna come into this Asia low? Maybe because, I mean, obviously we were very bullish on the day, right? Yeah, that could be it. I think that's the reason. I mean, this is very strong. Very strong. Lots of liquidity over here. It's not only an inverse, but it's also a regular unfilled fair value gap. And on this leg down right here, we already did a retrace on this leg. This leg was the retrace on the higher time frame, right? I mean, let's see. It was something of a like a retrace at least. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this was pretty much a retrace. This was a full-blown retrace because this is an hourly gap right here. That actually we did not inverse. And even though we did go past it, we ended up reversing off of it. Yeah, we ended up reversing off of this gap. Boom, boom, boom. 5-minute. Yep. That's why I had a feeling. So, something to note for myself is that if, you know, even though my bias on the day was bearish, market structure was bullish on the higher time frames, both on the 1 hour, right? Yeah, both on the 1 hour as well as the 4 hour. We were very bullish. We were just bullish on those. We were in bullish. We were in uptrends on those two time frames. And because of that, the move that the gap provided us, this opening gap, was more likely than not going to be a retrace rather than a regular move. So I was trying to catch a retrace today, which is a little unfortunate that I didn't do that. Even though I knew I should have closed out. I mean, I had so many opportunities to close my position out right here, right? I mean, I had, what is it? One, two, three, four, five, like at least five opportunities to close out my position. And then, we end up actually breaking structure on this candle right here on the 1 minute time frame, which could technically set us up for a retracement. But a retrace, I don't know. Yeah. Just today was one of those really iffy days. Everybody else took longs today, or they were originally bullish on the day. I could see why, because of market structure. But yeah, so whatever. Today's trade recap definitely wasn't as interesting for other people, but I don't care because it was very insightful for me. So the rule actually I was saying that I'll be adding on to my trading style is I'm going to move my macro a little bit. Since I like to do the early entry, I'm going to move my macro to 940 instead of 950, like TJR does. The reason being is because I mean, let's start off with why I'm not trading exactly at market open. That's because it is unpredictable. I mean, you have no idea what's going to happen. You look at any market open and you're like, yeah, this is just a whole bunch of garbage. But after it calms down for about 10 minutes, it usually likes to manipulate within those 10 minutes. And obviously, we're not going to see the full setup after those yeah, obviously we're not going to see the full setup, or more likely than not, we're not going to see the full setup at before 950, right? Or like just not rarely seen a higher time frame setup happen before 950. But with my new kind of tactic that I like to use, which is kind of entering, depending on how strong my bias is, kind of entering a little early with tighter stops and much larger stops. So today it would have been something like this if this new rule, if I'm including this new rule, if I implement it, would have been something like this, right? Give or take. Maybe even if I wanted to wait for a little bit more confirmation, maybe even something like this, which was still a far better entry than what I originally had. And I could put stops all the way up here. And enter in with the same amount of contracts that I did. Yeah, so that's my new macro window. 940. So for sure, do not trade before 9:40. That's a given, no matter what. No ands, ifs, or buts. You need to give price at least 10 minutes to settle and to kind of see how it behaves, or at least I do, because it's very unpredictable. And most of the time, it's just it's garbage, honestly. And then after those first 10 minutes, I think it's okay. We can maybe even drag it out a little more. See? That's still a little delayed. Yeah, I think 9:40 is a good one. Yeah. So any candle after 9:40 or anything I see after 9:40. Okay, well, today was just a really weird day. I'm glad that I had technical issues, if anything. Um, because if I didn't, I probably would have entered earlier. Definitely would have answered right here for sure. I mean, this looked beautiful right here, at least for my strategy. But 9 points, 3 contracts. What's that? What is the MES? Is that like $5 a point a contract? So that's like how many points is this? Times 9.25. I mean, that's still a pretty big risk. But I definitely would have entered this trade on multiple accounts. But then again, I'm not sure because I feel like I would have definitely taken profits on some accounts at this level right here. I just knew this gap was going to get completely like disregarded. I, it's just very blatantly obvious. This gap was not strong. I mean, we already tested it before. But yeah, whatever. You trade and you learn. And this is a very long video, but I really needed to make it. So thank you so much for watching. You guys have a good one.